here, you can carry some of this message. And what is that message? The message is Gandhiji's message of Satyagraha. But who is a Satyagrahi? The Satyagrahi is not one who sits in front of the governor's house and shouts slogans. He may do so. Satyagrahi, there are 9 or 10 qualities which he has given. So one who is actually practicing all that, the truthfulness, the honesty, the integrity, and the openness, the awareness of somebody else's presence there, all these if he is fulfilling, then only and only then he is a Satyagrahi. And then he is a seeker of truth, and Satyagraha means clinging to truth. So the next question is, where is it happening? Where is it happening, the brand of Gandhiji, Satyagraha, non-violence? So it is happening actually. Fortunately, it is happening because the adoption of the Gandhian non-violent methods by James Revel and Martin Luther King, this is all known, to secure the rights for the African blacks in the US. When they adopted the Gandhian philosophy of non-violence, they said to a very large extent we could create a mental force. So that force has to be generated. This was one, but that was in the 80s. The Velvet Revolution in Czechoslovakia, a Bevu. The Velvet Revolution essentially was the overthrow of the communism in 2000, was primarily the Gandhian non-violent philosophy. And so therefore the most important thing is, as was also referred to, the killing of cows or the killing of the fish. If I have to adopt any one of them, it is in my principle, then I would say this is both of them are violence. But then if I have to kill the man who is eating the fish or eating the cow, that also is violence. So if I perpetrate a violent action essentially to stop another violent action, what kind of Satyagrahi am I? So therefore, I join the force with Mr. Nayak and ask that we all have to be the volunteers or the Satyagrahis of the non-violent brand of Gandhiji. Then automatically things will happen. So this, I'm very glad that this is being held in the geology department. Their professor is sitting here, but the geology department essentially on a lighter vein tells you that the animals and the human beings, we are all equal, and therefore to demonstrate that we are here, be that as it may, but we are, the fact that we are in the university ambience tells me that this is where actually such thought processes must begin. More young minds must believe that we have to have this kind of non-violent action, which is basically rational and reasoning. But when you say the rational and reasoning, I think before you talk of any other reason, most important thing is I have to not only tolerate, I have to respect also the other's views. Am I respecting the views of my neighbor? I don't have to go very far. If the answer is yes, then I think I have started a non-violent action today. So, summarizing, all I am trying to say is today, roots may be very important. You can be quite religious, not really ceremonially religious, internally religious, as the Vedantis believe. B, you have to practice every day the two processes. One is your communion with God, and the second one is rationalization or rationality. I was giving the reference of the new university, 2005 Vivekananda University, where the Vice Chancellor is from the South. He teaches actually nuclear physics. He teaches nuclear physics in the morning, and in the afternoon he teaches Vedantic philosophy, because there is no basic conflict between the two. And I talked of Manak Maharaj just now, who is a Bhatnagar award winner 3 years back. He's a sabbatical man who is doing Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. He's a monk, lives in the monk. He lives in the monastery, not monastery but Ramakrishna Mission. The Ramakrishna Mission, interestingly, I found out when I studied that they have two missions. The first mission is Atmano Mokshyartam. Second one is Jagat Hitayacha. So you will find that there is a Ramakrishna mission and there is also a mat. The mission part is Jagat Hitaya part. The mat part is the Atmana Mokshyartham. Unless you have both, it doesn't recognize that you are actually the man of the God and you are truly non-violent. You can become truly non-violent if you believe that you actually believe that God is actually non-existent. So therefore you believe in the human being. So therefore, your belief, strong belief in the human being, love, and of course combined with that, your action. Then only the whole thing, whole mission will be fulfilled. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your inspiring words. Once my teacher, Professor Mahanti, said a very beautiful thing which I would love to share. Never do 3C in your life. 3C means compare, compete and complain. Every person here should have truthfulness, compassion and forbearance in his heart. So with this, I would like to request Dr. Vikas Das, President Club Legal Service Institute, to address the gathering.
Thank you very much today that I have been asked to speak here on this subject. This is a very important one. It's a double privilege for me because I am not only a speaker here, I am also one of the co-organizer of this program as the president of Clap Legal Service Institute. So I am really delighted that I am here today. Since my organization is working on legal aspect of different segment of the society, I focus on that aspect. How laws are being conceptualized and how it is being implemented to prevent violence. Because as I understand, when I was a PhD student in law and governance, we read the jurisprudence. Overall, what I was convinced that the jurisprudence wanted to say that in a society, everyone cannot be equal. Many people will be violating law, many people will abide by law. Fortunate thing is that a large segment of the society, they are abide by the law. A few people in the society, they don't obey law. And perhaps that is the reason why the jurisprudence says that in order to control this segment of the society who are unruly, you need to have law. Then a question comes to my mind, if that be so, then is there any space in law for human compassion and reason? Because if compassion and reason are there, then there is no need for law. But we understand from our historical perspective that in a human society probably this is not possible. Because all our religion teach us that, compassion. But we don't follow that. Although we are governed by different religion, but we don't follow the religious principles. That is the reality. And in order to impose something on the society, those who are not ready to accept the social norms, there is a normative approach contemplated under the law. And as a student of law, I will speak something about from the legal perspective. Before I go to the legal aspect, I will share a small story where I could see the human compassion from the perspective of law. There was an incident occurred in Odisha few years back, almost 10 years back. Suddenly, a lady from a Muslim community came to me and said, "Sir, my husband has pronounced triple talaq to me. Please protect me, do something for me in the court of law." I said, "That is the law in your, as per the personal law of Muslim community, that is the law, so I cannot do anything for you." Then she said, "Okay, why don't you talk to my husband for a while?" I said, "He pronounced talaq?" She said, "Yes." Then how come I speak to him then? He has already pronounced that. But she said, "Yes, but he is around with me. Can you speak to him?" I spared some time with her husband. He said, "Sir, I was under the influence of intoxication when I pronounced talaq, and I am also not sure whether really I pronounced talaq." Then I said, then how come you know this? He said, people from my community say that when I was under alcohol, I pronounced that. I have not heard, my wife has not heard that. So what is the problem then? Then go and stay together. Then they said, no, the community does not allow us to stay together. They say it is a violation of Quran. So what can we do? I said, look, there is no answer to this type of questions. You go and stay. They started staying together. And there was a huge demonstration of almost 10,000 people against them. They were ready to kill this couple. Then this superintendent of police of that district called me and said they have approached you for legal assistance. Can you seek an order from the court to provide protection, because we are unable to provide protection to the parents also. People are saying that since it is violation of our religious principles, so police cannot protect. Then I approached the High Court. Initially, High Court refused to entertain my application, saying that it is a communal thing, we are not going to interfere. I understood the psychology of the judges, then I approached the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court initially said it is a personal law, we are not going to interfere in this matter. I said my problem is different. I don't have any problem with the religious principles, whatever values they are having there. My problem is that there is no talaq, but people are imposing on me that there is a talaq. And I had two copies of orders. What is that called? The order given by the muftis. I said, look, there are two orders from the muftis. Muftis are the person who take decision about their religious thing. I said, one order says it is a clear violation of the religious principle. The other one says that since he was under intoxication, therefore it is not a proper one. So they can stay together. Then I asked the court, which one is going to govern me then? I am in a doubt, therefore I have approached this court. Then the Supreme Court started asking the Attorney General, who takes decisions? The Attorney General said, muftis are there, but there are thousands of muftis. So if there are two fatwas issued by two different muftis, then we cannot do anything. Then the Supreme Court got serious on this issue. They said, how come is this possible? There is no mechanism after 70 years of independence. They issued notice to all states. Then they said, what can we do for you? Because you have two fatwas. We cannot declare one fatwa as illegal in this way. Then I said, I need a simple direction from the Supreme Court to the local police to provide protection. And that will do to protect this couple. The Supreme Court directed the SP to provide full protection to the parent. Why I am telling all this? Because I could see there that there was a human compassion. The husband comes and he has the confidence to say that I have not pronounced it. Although thousands of people are against me, I am not ready to go by their stand. I am ready to go by my understanding. I am sure that I am not going to move. I have not pronounced it. As a result of that, we could save that. So sometimes it is the human compassion which helps the law to be properly implemented. Today we see that there are laws to protect women, children in different spheres, including the civil caste and civil crime. And there is a bill pending about the communal violence and all that. These laws mostly protect women in domestic sphere. That means there is a violence within the family, and there is no compassion in the family. But it is also not true to any extent, because we see that there is compassion in almost all the families. There are some deviations somewhere, and they don't go by the laws. So there is a legal mechanism developed. The Domestic Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act in 2005, it was enacted by the Parliament of India. it talks about four types of violence: physical, emotional, sexual, and economic abuse. That means all kind of violence, whether it is physical or not, if anything is conceptualized and delivered in the form of emotional kind of abuse, then law is going to protect it. Whether the law is working or not is a different thing, but that kind of normative approach has been developed in our country. That there is a need to end violence in order to make a violence-free society. And violence mostly starts from the family itself. And those who are victims, they can be protected by this law. Secondly, there is a recent development in the form of sexual harassment at workplace. Although in 1997 Supreme Court pronounced Visakha judgment, but very recently in 2013 the Parliament of India enacted the law. Now it protects women, violence against women in the work sphere. That means in various spheres the laws are there. In the first instance, in the domestic sphere, the law is there to protect women and children also. There is a law to protect women in the work sphere. Then third one is the overall society. And for that we have Indian Penal Code and the provisions are there. Now the question is, if we are going to build a violence-free world through reason and compassion, then what is the need of the law? Probably it is already experimented that by not making law, it is not possible to build a society like that. It will take time. I don't know whether that is possible or not, but I am sure that during my lifetime it is not possible. Looking at the attitude of people, the behavior of individuals, because I dealt with almost 1100 cases last year about family matters. So here what we as these scholars in the field or in this field, what we need to understand, that the laws are made, and in spite of laws are made, still there is violation. Then question will come, then compassion will not work and law will not work. But the answer probably is, after making a law, law has to follow life. Life is hard to follow law. No one's life is following law, though for those who are not obeying the laws. Suppose there is a provision about causing murder. Still murders are taking place. It is almost 150 years now after enactment of Indian Penal Code. Still murders are happening. Why it is happening if it is prevented in law? That means not only compassion and reason, but also law cannot work unless law follow life. Those who violated the law has to go and court them to impose punishment. Then only we can reduce violence. If it is reduced, then probably there will be a dialogue in the society that if it can be changed through law, why we cannot develop that kind of understanding, mentality, attitude and behavior to not to commit any kind of violence. Because I belong to a Gandhian family. I saw many Gandhians who most of the time they spoke about truth, violence, non-violence and this one satyagraha and all that. But actually in their approach they were very intolerant. They were very intolerant in their approach towards the society. Unless a society is tolerant to the society, a larger society, then it is very difficult to ensure a violence-free society. I remember a few years ago I was visiting South Africa. I found two, three big buildings saying that tolerance to crime. Then I met a judge in their Supreme Court. I said, why it is written everywhere that tolerance to crime, why it is so? They said, look, in our society we are trying to build that kind of attitude that people commit violence because of their low level of understanding or because of their other kinds of attitude. Therefore, in South Africa, black people are mostly doing that kind of thing. Unless the society is ready to accept their crime for a while and only will impose a penalty, then probably we cannot change their attitude. That is why we are building this confidence that there will be tolerance to crime initially. Then they thought of having the Peace and Reconciliation Commissions, which will provide opportunity to people to come together, dialogue between them, ready to accept the faults and ready to what is called as restitutive justice. If something has been done, then it will be restituted back to the to that person. Suppose I murder someone, I go to the family and help them out in running their family in the same way when the person was alive. So these things are being conceptualized and being prepared under different normative approach. So I think this subject can be related to the existing jurisprudential thought, and we can develop the society into that, where the legal norms are necessary and how the legal norms can contribute to promotion of a violence-free society. I think this is what I wanted to say more or less. With this I conclude. Thank you very much for giving me a chance to speak here. I'll think about the issue, this is a topic, I'll think about the issue again from the jurisprudential perspective, from the normative approach, and try to find out whether through reason and compassion we can really build a violence-free society, or we still need laws and legislation to prevent that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for enlightening us with your words. Compassion is the signature of higher consciousness, and non-violence is the tool to evolve into higher consciousness. With this, I would like to request Dr. Chittaranjan Mishra, former General Manager of NALCO, to address the hall.
ଆପଣ ବୁଝିବେ କି ନ ବୁଝିବେ ମୁଁ ଜାଣିନି, କିନ୍ତୁ ମୁଁ ଓଡ଼ିଆରେ କହିବି। ଏଇ ମାସରେ ବି କହିବି, ଏପ୍ରିଲ ମାସରେ କହିବି, କାରଣ ଓଡ଼ିଶାର ଜନ୍ମଦିନ ତ ଭୁବନେଶ୍ୱର ସହର ଜନ୍ମଦିନ ପହଞ୍ଚିବ ଯାଇଛି। କହିବା ଉଚିତ, ସେଥିପାଇଁ ମୁଁ କହିବି, କାରଣ ଓଡ଼ିଶାରେ ଠିଆ ଭୁବନେଶ୍ୱର ଠିଆ ଭୁବନେଶ୍ୱର ଜନ୍ମଦିନ ଆମେ ପାଳନ କରିଛେ ପରଦିନ। 85 ବରେଣ୍ୟ ଅତିଥି ବୃନ୍ଦ, ମୋ ସାମ୍ନାରେ ବସିଥିବା ମହା ନାଗରିକ ମାନେ, ଭୁବନେଶ୍ୱର ସହରର ମୋ ପ୍ରିୟ ଛାତ୍ରଛାତ୍ରୀମାନେ, ଆମେ ଘଣ୍ଟେ 2 ଘଣ୍ଟା ବସି ଶୁଣୁଛେ, ବହୁତ କଥା ଆଲୋଚନା ହେଲାଣି। ଆମେ ସ୍ଥିତିର ପର୍ଯ୍ୟାଲୋଚନା କଲେ ଆମେ କେଉଁ ସ୍ଥିତିରେ ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଅଛେ, ସମାଜ କେଉଁ ସ୍ଥିତିରେ ଚାଲୁଛି, ସମାଜ ଯେଉଁ ସ୍ଥିତିରେ ବଞ୍ଚିଛି, ପ୍ରେଜେଣ୍ଟ ଷ୍ଟେଟ୍ ଅଫ୍ ଆଫେୟାର୍ସକୁ ନେଇକି ଆମେ ଆଲୋଚନା କଲେ। ମାନେ ସ୍ଥିତିଟା ଆପଣ ସାମ୍ନାରେ ରଖାଗଲା, ଏହା ସ୍ଥିତି, ଏଇ ପରିବେଶ ଆମେ ବଞ୍ଚୁଛେ। যেটা প্রফেসর মহান্তি কহিকি গলে মু সেটা একমত হচ্ছে। আকশন প্ল্যান কোণ, আমি কোণ করিবা, এই গোটে 2 দিন সেমিনার করে যেটা বাটে যেটা সবজেক্ট ম্যাটরকে হজিଯିব, আমি ବି হজিଯିବା নিজ বাটରେ। আকশন প্ল্যান কোণ এবং নিহার বাবু ପାଇଁ ଆମର কোণ ରହିବ, ଯେଉଁ ଉପଦେଶ ରହିବ কোণ, ତା ଉପରେ ଆମେ ବହୁତ ଆଲୋଚନା କରିବା। ଆମେ কোণ କରିବା ଆଫ୍ଟର ଦିସ୍ ସେମିନାର, ହ୍ୱାଟ୍ ନେକ୍ସଟ। ହ୍ୱାଟ୍ ନେକ୍ସଟ ହେଉଛି ଆମେ ଲଞ୍ଚ ଖାଇବା, ତାପରେ ଯେଟା ବାଟରେ ଯେଟା ଯିବା, ଏଇଟା ଆକ୍ଚୁଆଲ। हजार हजार सेमिनार जीवन में अटेंड करछि, आपण मान भी अटेंड करछन, देशर देश बाहर भी नथिंग हैपेंस आफ्टर द सेमिनार। तो गोटे एटी करा जो हमर एक्शन प्लान कोन, गोटे दुईटी कार्यक्रम हाथ में निया जाऊ, लेगाल एडर अछंती, एक्शन हमें कोन करबा, एई रहला गोटे कथा। हमें आपण मान को समस्त चिंताधारा समान दोछु, थ्योरी के हमें निश्चित भाव विश्लेषण करूछु, थ्योरी निश्चित जानना दरकार, प्रैक्टिकल तो थ्योरी लागू पड़ा जाए। आम साइंस स्टूडेंट्स को जानी थ्योरी कौन, प्रैक्टिकल कौन, कहीं थ्योरी आवश्यक है, प्रैक्टिकल आवश्यक रही है, सब जिन आवश्यक रही है। प्रैक्टिकल इज मोर इंपोर्टेंट देन थ्योरी। ये आप जानते आप थ्योरी जिते लिखले भी साइंस में पास कर पारे, ऑलवेज इनटू द प्रैक्टिकल। जिते थ्योरी लिखନ୍ତୁ, जिते पूरा बही की थोई दियंतु, नथिंग हैपेंस इन साइंस अनलेस यू डू ए थिंग इन प्रैक्टिस टू। आपण अधिक साइंस स्टूडेंट असते, प्रॉपर महांती भी असन, नथिंग हैपेंस इन थ्योरी। तो दे आमे जे सब साइंस स्टूडेंट ତେଣୁ ଆମେ ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ କ'ଣ କରିବା ଏ ଯେଉଁ ଅହିଂସା କଥା ହିଂସା କଥା ତ ଆସିଛି ଆପଣ ଦେଖିଲେ ସଭ୍ୟତାର ଜନ୍ମଦିନରୁ ସଭ୍ୟତାର ଜନ୍ମ ଆପଣ ଯେଉଁ ଯୁଗକୁ ଚାରି ଭାଗରେ ବିଭକ୍ତ କରୁଛନ୍ତି ସତ୍ୟ ଯୁଗ ତ୍ରେତୟା ଯୁଗ ଦ୍ୱାପର ଯୁଗ କଳି ଯୁଗ ଆଦି ବସିଛି ଆପଣ ଚିନ୍ତା କରନ୍ତୁ